Let's talk a little bit more about adjectives and then the exciting part. We're going to learn how to diagram adjectives. I'm so excited. Diagramming is a lot of fun. It's almost like when you build a house and you have the blueprint. Okay, so we're making a blueprint of our sentence. First thing, let's talk about proper adjectives. What do you think a proper adjective is? Well, remember we learned what a proper noun is? What's a proper noun? It's a specific person, place, or thing. And we can tell that it's proper also because it begins with a capital letter. For instance, America. America is a proper noun. But if America is being used as an adjective, if it's describing something, and we would change the form of America into American flag, this would be a proper adjective because it is describing what kind of flag. What kind of flag is it? It's an American flag, but it is a proper adjective because it's a specific person, place, or thing, and it has a capital letter. Now, also in your sentences, you may have more than one adjective describing a noun or a pronoun. So, we need to remember what happens when we make a list of things. What do we put between the words? We put commas, but we may need commas, we may not. There's a test that you have to give in order to know whether to put commas between a list of adjectives or whether not to. Okay, so I have some examples here. Cold winter day, fun Sunday school, sweet crunchy candy. Now, the test is, ask yourself two questions. Okay, the first test is, if I switch the adjectives, will it still make sense? And if it still makes sense, then that means you can put commas between those adjectives. But if it's not going to make sense by switching those adjectives, then you do not put commas, okay? Because those adjectives almost need to be together, okay, not separated by commas. The other test is if we put the word and in between the adjectives. Now, if we can put the word and between the adjectives and it sounds funny, then we should put commas. But if we put the word and in between the adjectives and it makes sense, then that means we don't really need commas. Okay, so let's do the test. Cold winter day. What if we switch the adjectives and it says winter cold day? Does that make sense? Not really. Okay, and what if we said cold and winter day? That doesn't make sense either. So you know what? We're going to not put commas because we need these words to kind of be together. Cold winter day. Let's do the test here. Fun Sunday school. What if we switch these and say Sunday fun school? Does that make sense? No. What if we put and? Fun and Sunday school. No, that doesn't make sense either. So we are not going to put commas. But what about here? Sweet crunchy candy. Let's switch the adjectives. And what if it said crunchy sweet candy? Does that make sense? Yeah. So we can put commas. If I said sweet and crunchy candy, does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense. So that means we can put commas, okay? So we would do sweet crunchy candy. All right. Let's do page 108 together, and then we're going to jump to page 109 and we are going to diagram. So page 108. First thing we're going to do is, in think A, underline the proper adjective and then draw an arrow from each proper adjective to the noun that it describes. Number 1, Botswana is an African country that is nearly the size of Texas. So what is the proper adjective in that sentence? Remember, like American flag? What's the proper adjective? African. So underline African. What is African describing? It's describing country. So draw an arrow from African to country. Number 2, Alfred Tennyson was a famous poet of the Victorian era. Now remember, a proper adjective has a capital letter, so that's kind of like a clue. So the adjective there is Victorian. Victorian what? What's it describing? Victorian era. So draw an arrow to era. Number 3, Leo's family enjoys Jamaican food. Now that's a short sentence, but it actually has 2 proper adjectives. The first one is Leo's. So underline Leo's. And what's Leo's describing? Family. So draw an arrow to family. And what's the next adjective? Japanese. So underline Japanese. And that is describing food. So draw your arrow to food. Number 4, Matthew has attended a Christian school since 2nd grade. And our proper adjective is, do you see it? Christian. So underline Christian, and that's describing the school. What kind of school is it? It's a Christian school. Number 5, Emily's new pen pal is a Canadian citizen. We have 2 proper adjectives. Okay, so the first one is Emily's. So underline Emily's. What's Emily's describing? All the way to pal. Emily's pal. Now there's also some other adjectives describing pal. New and pen, but those aren't proper adjectives. So just draw an arrow from Emily's to pal. And then the second adjective is Canadian, and that's describing citizen. For think B, you're going to use proofreader's marks to mark capitalization and I lost my place. To capitalize proper adjectives. Insert necessary commas between the bold adjectives. So we're going to do the test. Number 1, a traditional side dish at Botswanan meals is pap, a thick cornmeal mush. So, what is the proper adjective that we need to capitalize? Botswanan. I'm probably not saying that right. So you're going to use your 3 little lines under the B to make that show that that needs to be capitalized. Now, do we put commas between traditional side? No, because if we switch those 2 words or put an and between them, it won't make sense. So we can't put commas. And then what about thick cornmeal mush? If we said cornmeal thick mush, or thick and cornmeal mush, that doesn't really make sense either. So we're not going to put commas. Number 2, milk, butter, and sugar are added for warm, delicious breakfast. There are no proper adjectives. Should we put a comma between warm and delicious? Yes. Number 3, the inexpensive, simple dish is often combined with vegetables and meat to make a satisfying, hearty meal. Is this making you hungry? So, there are no proper adjectives. And should we put a comma between inexpensive, simple dish? If we switch them, it makes sense. And if we put and between them, it makes sense. So we do need a comma then. We should put a comma. Because that means we can separate them. They don't need to be together. Okay. And then, satisfying, hearty meal. Would we put a comma? Yes. And number 4, would you try a bowl of hot African pap with your breakfast? So do you see a proper adjective there? African. So capitalize African. And should we put a comma? Would it make sense to say African hot pap? Not really. So we don't put a comma. All right. And then you're going to write an exclamatory sentence containing a proper adjective. And then at the bottom, you're going to mark the sentence. And then you're going to identify the bold word by writing N for noun, pro for pronoun, and ADJ for adjective. All right, so let's move to the next page and you can go back and finish that. Because I'm so excited about diagramming adjectives. This is like better than extra recess. I mean, and better than snack time. And I'm just so excited. And I know you guys are too. So what we're going to do is let's just do this together and I'll do it with you. Okay, we'll teach you as we go. So basically what we're going to do is draw a diagonal line underneath of the word that the adjective describes. So number 1. Many wild animals live in Botswana's rhino sanctuary. So first mark your sentence. All right, so let's divide it. Divide the subject from the predicate. So we're going to divide after animals. Animals is our subject, so underline animals. And live is our verb, so underline that twice. So let's go ahead and diagram, okay, our subject, animals, live. Now, are there any adjectives in this sentence that we need to use to describe any of these words? Animals, okay, so many, wild. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a diagonal line since there's 2 adjectives. All right, so then we're going to write many, and many was the first word of the sentence, so it's capitalized. Many, wild. So that's how you're going to diagram your adjectives. Now I kind of went too far. I went past the dividing line. Okay. But isn't that exciting? I know you're excited. All right, number 2. The tall giraffe and the swift cheetah live there. So divide your sentence after cheetah. And in this case, we have 2 subjects. What are they? Giraffe and cheetah. So underline those for your subjects. And what's the verb? Live. So underline live. Oh, somebody is slamming a door in our house. How sweet. Okay, so now we're going to diagram 2 subjects. Okay, so remember how you do it? You drew this, right? 2 subjects. So do that. Now write your subjects. Giraffe. You're writing in your book while I'm writing on my paper. Cheetah. And live. Okay, so you should have this set up. Now, we have 2 adjectives describing giraffe and 2 adjectives describing cheetah, right? So what adjectives describe giraffe? Remember we learned that articles are also adjectives. So the, tall. Okay, so you're going do your 2 lines under giraffe and then write the with the capital T, tall. The tall. And cheetah also has 2. Okay, the swift. Ta-da! Adjectives. All right. And then number 3, let's do that together. These wild and beautiful animals should be observed with caution. So, I'm not going to mark the sentence with you. You mark the sentence. Okay, so do your subject and verb. Let's see if you get the right subject and verb. Ooh, it's a long verb. Okay, remember your helping verbs. So hopefully you wrote this. Animals should be observed. That is your long verb. And we have a lot of adjectives describing animals. What are they? These. Okay, so it's saying which animals? These animals. These, wild, and beautiful. Now there's a word and in between those adjectives. So we're also going to diagram the word and I'll show you how to do that. Okay. So you're going to draw 3 lines. And again, I drew it too long. Okay, so I'll show you my book when I'm done so you can see the nice and neat. Okay, so the first one is these. So I write that. These, wild and beautiful. Now, what you're going to do is the word and comes between. So let me show you. Okay, so you have your 3 adjectives. These, wild, beautiful. What you're going to do, you're going to draw a little dotted line in between those 2, and then you're going to write the word and. Okay, so do you see? These, wild, and beautiful. So the word and is between these 2, like that. Okay, let me show you the computer generated. You see how nice and neat that is? Okay, so that's what you need to do in your book. I mean, if it helps and you're a perfectionist, you can use a ruler and make it look really nice. Then at the bottom, you're going to use proofreader's marks to mark capitalization and insert the missing punctuation. Okay, now if you want extra practice diagramming adjectives, in the back of your book, we did lessons 108 and 109. So in the back of your book, you can look back and see if there are any take 5s that you can be working on, okay, to help you get practice diagramming. So it looks like, I don't see any take 5s for diagramming. Okay, now I'm not assigning you homework. So, tell you what, for practice, well, we'll be practicing later. Actually, a big practice would be on page 246. That is a big practice. Okay. Or you can just get one of your books and find a sentence with lots of adjectives and see if you can diagram it and bring it to me. Now, you did a great job watching this video. If you can tell me what color my sunglasses are, I might just give you a prize. Okay? We'll see you later.